Hello everyone, good day from Caracas. For Telesur, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas. To begin today, the Speaker of the Brazilian Congress, Eduardo Cunha, is due to answer this Tuesday the dozen questions about opening impeachment proceedings against the president, Dilma Rousseff. Now, Cunha is currently under investigation for alleged bribery in the Petrobras scandal. Some analysts say the impeachment is part of a destabilization campaign by the opposition, including supposed ally Eduardo Cunha's PMDB. Rousseff has reshuffled her cabinet in an attempt to stop what she describes as a soft coup, which led PMDB to become the biggest party in Congress. The Federal Audit Court declared Rousseff's government's accounts of 2014 illegal, and the Electoral Court ordered a probe into alleged irregularities in her re-election campaign that same year. The impeachment proceedings would need the votes of 2/3, that is 342, to be opened. And another important decision will take place on Wednesday in Guatemala. The institutions working in the devastated area of the El Cambray II are meeting Tuesday at the National Coordinator for Disaster Reduction, CONRED, to discuss the rescue works at the region where a mudslide on October 1st left at least 280 people dead. On Wednesday, they will decide whether to continue those works. Now, authorities now believe that 260 are missing. 400 survivors are living in shelters. At least 73 homes were completely destroyed. President Alejandro Maldonado visited the area on Monday and has promised new homes to be built by the end of the year. Authorities are also considering declaring the region a graveyard due to the difficulty experienced by rescue workers and the health risks. Now, according to CONRED, about 300,000 people in Guatemala City live in risk areas. To South America, due to the peace agreement between the FARC and the Colombian government, the safest regional and local elections in decades will be celebrated this Sunday in the country. Still, according to the Electoral Observation Mission there, 53 candidates have received threats. 87 candidates were attacked in the 2011 elections. Also, Venezuela. Here in Venezuela, the country is preparing for legislative elections in December. The president here, Nicolás Maduro, says he expects that the opposition will not accept the results and will resort to violence to destabilize the country. Now, opposition leaders have refused to sign a government-led agreement promising to respect the results. A few opposition leaders published a document calling for an electoral rebellion without offering more specifics. Maduro also claims sectors of the opposition have sabotaged the country's infrastructure.
With them hurting the people in this economic war, sabotaging the electric services, sabotaging the public services, committing murders along with undercover paramilitaries. Finally, the Venezuelan people will surrender to imperialism and defeat the revolution and punish itself. That's why they expect. Do you want that to happen? Are you going to surrender? I'm calling you, brothers and sisters, to be alert with maximum conscience. And I call you, come rain, come thunder, or whatever the batter and terrorist right wing may do, to stand firm and support the Bolivarian revolution, which is the workers' revolution and the people's revolution.
Llueve, truene o relampaguee, haga lo que haga la derecha maltrecha y terrorista, a mantenerse firme, trabajando y apoyando la revolución bolivariana, que es tu revolución, querido trabajador, que es tu revolución.
The Venezuelan foreign minister has explained that an attack on the country's electricity capabilities intended to affect the central region of the country.
This command forced access with the aim of sabotaging the electricity service, affecting the areas that rely on this substation. This is not the first time. Every time during the run-up to electoral events, they seek to affect the community, to create anguish and anxiety. However, President Nicolás Maduro has ordered an immediate investigation, and the security forces of Venezuela are already on to those responsible for the attacks.
After visiting Guyana, a United Nations delegation has arrived here in Venezuela to mediate in the Essequibo region dispute between the two neighboring countries. Now, the team headed by UN's Assistant Secretary for Political Affairs, Susana Malcorra, was received by a former Venezuelan ambassador to the UN, Roy Chatterton. The United Nations team will evaluate Venezuela's claim to the region, where ExxonMobil has been drilling for oil. In September, both countries recalled their ambassadors due to the dispute, but in late September, during the United Nations 70th General Assembly, Guyana's President David Granger and Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro agreed to send their ambassadors back to their respective diplomatic missions. We go to Peru. A small team of investigative journalists says it has discovered a tax evasion scheme by some of the wealthiest companies in that country. Raul Mora now with more on those damning revelations.
The investigative journalist team, Ojo Público, released a new report revealing that 8 of the largest Peruvian corporations have offshore accounts in tax havens, such as the Cayman, Virgin, and Bermuda Islands, where they can avoid paying taxes for the profits they made in the country. The investigation was performed using local and international public records.
The idea is to start making continuous publications related to the most important companies of Peru and how they are managed. The truth is that the economic power is a branch of investigative journalism that has not been delved into in Peru. This is one of the first publications. What we have seen here is to see first who are the 20 most important economic powerhouses in the country.
The list of Peruvian-based companies that have operations in tax havens include banks and multinationals, Credit Corp, Breca, and Intercorp, which have an array of businesses operating in the country. Fiscal evasion through the use of tax havens is a worldwide problem, but the issue is particularly harmful for countries like Peru, which is not meeting the basic needs of a large number of its citizens. It was estimated that only in 2012 the Peruvian state lost $9 billion in revenues due to that type of evasion.
It was estimated during 2012 $114 billion left our countries in Latin America. It's an immense quantity of resources that we are not receiving and that could be used to finance policies for health, food, housing, education, etc. Or even the change of productive model of our countries and stop continuing to be only exporters of raw materials.
Moreno explains that the government tried to add a clause to the fiscal code to avoid tax evasion by corporations, but a powerful business lobby group prevented any real changes. His organization is now working on an international effort called Pay What Is Fair, hoping that that path will bring improvements for the future of Peruvian citizens. Rael Mora, Telesur, Peru.
To Central America, 4 years ago in Honduras, the Honduran Police Force Review was created with the aim of cleaning up law enforcement corruption. Now, since then, the review has revealed over 1,000 cases of criminal activity by police agents, but only 3 officers have lost their jobs. Our correspondent Gerardo Torres now explains.
For years, the Honduran police force has been accused of corruption, human rights abuses, and criminal activities. In 2011, President Porfirio Lobo announced a cleanup process that he promised would change the institution. Police officers would have to pass 4 tests: a physical one, a toxicology test, an investigation into their property and other assets in comparison with their salary, and a lie detector test.
We have carried out around 26,000 tests to evaluate the country's police officers. 16,000 have been applied to serving police officers and around 10,000 to applicants at the police academy.
The Department for Investigation and Evaluation of Police Officers has sent 1,089 case files to the Attorney General's office for agents shown to have links to criminal activities. Of the 16,000 members of the police force evaluated, more than 12,000 have abused their authorities at some time, yet only 3 agents have been sacked.
What cleanup processes are they talking about? Because we don't have any real results to show there have been improvements in respecting human rights in this country. On the contrary, the police and the military, which are in charge of security, continue to violate human rights.
The security budget has increased 200% since the cleanup process began, but the fact remains that many agents abuse their positions, and the lack of any real action by the authorities only increases the insecurity felt by all the population. Gerardo Torres, Telesur, Central America.
In Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro has been holding talks in Cochabamba with the Bolivian leader Evo Morales after both attended the People's Summit on climate change. Now, the two presidents discussed their two countries' long-standing cooperation in areas like energy, food production, and education. They also talked about the results of the climate change meeting and how to take these conclusions to the COP21 summit in Paris in November.
This was the People's Climate Change Summit, a chance for those most affected by adverse weather to have their say. More than 2,000 people from more than 40 countries gathered in Bolivia to urge politicians to champion their calls for a cleaner, greener planet.
We welcome this proposal from Latin America. That's the way we can really defend and protect our Mother Nature.
Bolivia's President Evo Morales was joined by Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro and Ecuador's President Rafael Correa. They came to listen to the solutions from some of the world's poorest people. All three attacked capitalism as being the root cause of climate change.
An inhabitant of a rich country emits 38 times more CO2 than an inhabitant of a poor country.
We have got rid of imperial domination with this neoliberal policy. This is the continuing struggle against imperialism, against capitalism.
Bolivia developed a 10-point plan to send to the Paris Climate Summit in November. It wants to create an environmental international court of justice to punish those nations that fail to act responsibly on climate change. 196 states will gather in Paris, including the largest emitters of greenhouse gases. The question many are asking here is, will they listen to the developing world? Ban Ki-moon says a transformative deal in Paris was in sight, but delegates here fear the developed nations will not honour a pledge of $100 billion a year to fight climate change by 2020. Their message is simple: act now to save the planet before it's too late.
Moving on, the Dutch Safety Board has released the findings of its investigation into the downed Malaysia Airlines flight MH17. Now, the plane crashed in July of last year in Ukraine. Finally, we have more information on what brought the Boeing 777 out of the sky. We have the details when we come back.
Discover Latin America and the world in our programs. Telesur Reports, The Real USA, the stories behind the tweets, Ataman, Lives, Know Your Body, Open Files. Exposing the conflicts that affect our people, compelling personal stories, and the most controversial events. See it all on telesurtv.net in English. Telesur, wherever the news, you'll be there.
Day by day, they're in the street with one mission: change the world through their actions. This is a different type of program, a conversation. The perspective you won't find in traditional media can be found on The Laura Flanders Show. Watch it on telesurtv.net/English. Telesur, wherever the news, you'll be there.
We need to understand the world we live in. We require news with critical points of view, thorough analysis, and social commitment. This information is vital to think, to understand, and to change. The world demands a new perspective. telesurtv.net/English. Wherever the news, you'll be there.
The Dutch Safety Board releases the long-awaited findings of that investigation into the downed Malaysian flight MH17. The MH17 flight, you'll remember, crashed on July 17th of 2014, killing all 298 people on board. Now, speaking in front of a partial reconstruction of the plane, the chairman of the Dutch Safety Board said the Malaysia Airlines plane was downed by a Russian-made Buk missile. Now, the board concludes that all other possible scenarios have been ruled out, even though the missile was Russian-made. The safety board reports did not assign blame for the crash.
Flight MH17 crashed because of a 9N314M warhead detonated outside the aeroplane above the left side of the cockpit. This warhead fits the kind of missile that is installed on the book Surface-to-Air Missile System.
The Russian government has challenged the findings of the Dutch safety's report, saying that a conclusion could not be made with certainty. Defense firm Almaz Anti, which makes the BUK anti-aircraft missile systems, presented experiments that the company says would show Russia's military is not in possession of the version of the missile used in the incident. The Dutch prosecutor's office is scheduled to conclude a second criminal investigation in early 2016. That report is expected to answer who exactly shot down flight MH17. Backed by Russian airstrikes, the Syrian army continues to make advances against the self-named Islamic State or Daesh in various fronts, including in the Idlib, Hama, and Latakia regions. Now, this footage, we're seeing it here, released by Russia's defense ministry, shows the moment an ammunition storage unit is leveled there by precision airstrikes from Russian jets near Latakia. The storage unit was located in the mountainous wooded area in the Salmiya district as part of Russia's airstrikes against the Islamic State. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, Moscow has conducted over 100 airstrikes since launching its first airstrikes in Syria on September 30th. Clashes erupted in the West Bank after a string of attacks in Jerusalem and near Tel Aviv. Since Israeli security forces began to crack down on Palestinian worshippers at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the compound there in occupied East Jerusalem in September, violent clashes have increased in frequency. 2 Palestinians shot and stabbed passengers on a bus in Jerusalem. 2 people died as a result, and at least 5 others have been wounded. Both the Palestinian and Israeli presidents have appealed for calm, but the violence shows no sign of slowing down. Our correspondent in Gaza now, Noor Harazin, with the latest information.
After almost 12 days of clashes between Palestinian youth and Israeli forces, last night Palestinian factions alongside Palestinian youth and social media asked the Palestinian people to go out to the streets today, Tuesday, in the Gaza Strip and in the West Bank to clash with the Israeli side, and that did happen here in the Gaza Strip. Palestinian youth clashed with the Israeli forces along the border with Gaza. Since this morning, Palestinian medical sources reported that there is at least 25 injuries only in the Gaza Strip with tear gas and also rubber and live bullets. In the West Bank, there is 2 Palestinians killed, and also there was 2 Israelis killed when a Palestinian man started shooting inside a bus. We, the journalists here in Gaza, have somehow are getting overwhelmed with the amount of news and the amount of attacks that are happening in the West Bank today. The people of Gaza are fearing that this wave of escalation is going to end with a big Israeli operation on the Gaza Strip.
Moving on, Germany will implement transit zones in its southeast to address the migrant crisis. Now, if migrants clearly have no chance of gaining asylum, authorities will turn them away. According to the Bavarian state premier, a concrete proposal should be drawn up by the 2 parties, the state's government and the federal government, this week. The draft bill would affect those with fake documents or without papers. Migrants from countries not considered dangerous or those who lack reasons to justify an asylum application will also be rejected. Libyan officials conducted a raid at a migrant hideout in Tripoli, where they detained 2 alleged members of a human smuggling ring that are responsible for smuggling people from Libya to Europe. They also detained over 160 migrants. A large amount of cash was also confiscated from the alleged smugglers. The detained migrants were transferred to a detention facility in the capital. The Iranian parliament has passed a bill approving the nuclear deal made by the world powers in July, which clears the way for its implementation. Now, according to Iran state news agency IRNA, the bill was passed with 161 votes for, 59 against, and 13 abstentions. The next step for the bill is for it to be submitted to a clerical body for final approval and passage into law. Under the agreement from October 18th, Iran is expected to start rolling back its nuclear program. In return, the EU will adopt a regulation for the lifting of sanctions, and the U.S. will issue waivers for sanctions relief. On Monday, Yemen's former president, Ali Abdullah Saleh, said he would honor a peace plan brokered by the United Nations if a Saudi-led Arab alliance stopped airstrikes on the country. Saleh also said he was ready to leave his position as head of the General People's Congress, which is Yemen's largest party, to facilitate an end to fighting. However, a Hadi spokesman has dismissed his statements as a maneuver and demanded that the Iran-backed group hand back territory it has seized since last year. We're going to go back to Guatemala now, where authorities there have decided they will not continue with the rescue works at El Cambre. The president of the country, Alejandro Maldonado, he just made the announcement in a press conference. This is breaking news. They also announced a subsidy that will be given to the victims.
Three scientists from Ireland, Japan, and China were recognized with the Nobel Prize in Medicine for their discoveries, which have helped doctors battle malaria and infectious diseases caused by intestinal parasites. William Campbell and Satoshi Omura were recognized by the discovery of ivermectin, whose derivatives have helped reduce the incidence of river blindness and lymphatic filariasis, two parasitic diseases that affect millions of people in Africa and Asia. UU too discovered the artemisinin, a drug that has helped reduce the mortality rate significantly from malaria as well.
We go to sports now. Real Madrid's Cristiano Ronaldo has won the European Golden Shoe Trophy for a record fourth time now. The international soccer star received his award at a ceremony in Madrid, Spain. Ronaldo was the recipient due to his 48 goals from his 35 appearances for Real Madrid. He managed to just edge out Barcelona's Lionel Messi, who netted 43 goals in 38 outings. Ronaldo had previously won in 2008, 2011, and 2014. Mizuki Tanaka is the youngest and only female of Japan's three remaining public bath mural painters, a profession which originated in Tokyo in 1912. Now, the 32-year-old makes a living out of painting Mount Fuji on the large walls of public bathhouses. Over 2,600 bathhouses existed in Tokyo alone in the 1960s, but now that figure has dropped to just around 700. Public bathhouses are trying to turn themselves into a tourist attraction ahead of the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, but customers are still declining there. Despite this, Tanaka still feels the paintings are what make the traditional experience special. Other than Tanaka, there are only two other public bath painters left in the country, both of whom are over the age of 70. That's what we're covering on this Tuesday afternoon here from Caracas. Plenty more on all those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle. Have a great day.